Supervisor Hale,
Present.
Supervisor Henry,
Present.
Supervisor Magruder.
Here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, first up, we have our EOP training exercise update. Tommy?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you all for having the opportunity for me to kind of update you on how our training went at the end of the year. Also, wow, my last presentation was next across the street, so this was amazing. So, this wonderful space. I know you're all looking forward to that. So just kind of update a couple of new board members. Over the course of the last 2 years, we have worked to kind of initiate a new emergency operations plan for the county. And then as that plan has kind of been developed and been instituted across the county, we started doing training, meeting with our partners, bringing different people to the table so that we can now transition into everything. It's kind of a normal battle rhythm, if you will, for the event. And Chief Packett will be taking the lead. I know as we continue to move forward, so let's thank you for that, leadership that Kyle's provided with everything. So at the end of the year, we did do a exercise November 13th that brought folks together. After kind of meeting with the leadership of the county, it was kind of determined that, we are a small county, so it was going to be a little bit difficult to like have everybody sidestep out of their day-to-day job and actually get into a training exercise. So what we chose to do is actually break the day up in individual modules so folks would not have to separate from their day-to-day world throughout the entire day. So that actually worked very well. Appreciate the guys, the leadership there in that direction. The scenario was really based on a tornado. If we reflect back in the history of Rappahannock in Essex County, this is something that's been a real-world example from our history. So we were able to kind of emulate that again in the scenario itself. Some of the things that we were really going to achieve in that was kind of validate some of the key points within our emergency operations plan for the county. Focus on how do we activate our personnel and resources, bring them to the table, and then how do we hit some of those critical marks that are necessary for potential FEMA reimbursement of funds back to the county when you talk about things like damage assessment and some of the expenditures of funds. And then, hey, what are those quick wins that we could capture? So I think some of those nuggets that we've talked about will flush out here in the next minute or two as we flip through some of the slides here. We set up the objectives and how we achieve those and what those outcomes are. Kind of won't go through these in detail, but they're in your packets. Will be available to you from that end. But that kind of outlines really what we were trying to achieve to get the cadence of the activity moving forward. Very pleased with the support that VDEM, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, provided to the exercise. As you can see here, as far as facilitators, we had folks from Richmond come up to talk about damage assessment and work with our staff, mass care, finance, and PIO. And then on behalf of the Berkeley group, we had some additional support from Anna Cherry, who did some of the documentation and logistics necessary to make sure that we had everything successful. So that was kind of the scope of the support on the event itself. One thing that I did want to point out that you'll have in front of you is the representation. We had a great cross-section of folks from the town, from the county, from the schools, folks in different positions and at all different levels. So that allowed folks to really become engaged and participate in the scenario where they were able to apply the things that they do every day in their jobs to how they would execute those during an emergency. So that worked out very well for us. The schedule, as I already kind of alluded to, we instead of doing a single scenario that went from morning to afternoon, we actually broke it up into individual modules. And you can see here that we had focused conversations from activation and leadership to damage assessment, mass care and sheltering, finance, public information, and then kind of what it all wraps up to at the end. So that's kind of how the flow of the actual day went itself. In each module, we had some very key actions and gaps that were identified, and then some things that department heads could take back to their own part of the organization and kind of work on. And most type of unsafe tagging kits for rapid scene control. You know, if we have to provide better scene control in the incident, how would we do that? And then the last thing I really wanted to call out is the standing up on the self-reporting. And this was done in a couple of aspects. It was talked about around GIS. It was also talked around some other applications that could be used where citizens, if there was damage and they can't get out their driveway, they could not get off their property, they could self-report, hey, I am okay, or I need some additional assistance, or here's a picture of my house and look at the damage. So these conversations I thought were very meaningful and would kind of provide the foundation for moving forward as an organization. The third module was broken down into mass care, finance, and public information. There was a lot of relevance in all three of those discussions. Mass care didn't think social services enough. They brought their whole team to the county, to the conversation and the drill. They worked through where their next steps need to be. They already have a meeting scheduled next week with Virginia Department of Emergency Management on the shelter planning. So that was very successful in moving forward. The section on finance was very relevant in the sense that it talked about what do we need to do to make sure that we're documenting the key objectives during a disaster, so if something happens, we know that we've captured all the critical information. So I'll give you an example. If a generator cuts on at the base of a cell tower and runs for 10 hours and burns fuel, those 10 hours are credits that get applied to the FEMA reimbursement back to the county to make sure that you meet the threshold that's necessary to get financial reimbursement, but also once you meet that, it becomes a charge that you're able to apply to that. So we talked through in the finance section some of those critical components that need to be kind of forefronted as you work through the finance part of a disaster. And then I think in the public information discussion, there's a lot of great dialogue between our county administrator, April, and she kind of provided guidance on how information should be gotten out to the public and what are the routes and the technologies that we have in place that Kyle implemented to make sure that that information is available and that can be communicated to the community. Module 6.4, as far as kind of wrapping things up in the AAR, if you will, we had some great challenges that folks looked at. We had some immediate next steps, so we just kind of highlighted a few here, and this kind of broke across all parts of the organization. And then we kind of developed some cadence, if you will, for the next year of some key areas that the county, emergency services, and staff will be working on to continue to provide that preparedness necessary so if something actually happens, they're prepared and ready to roll. So that kind of concludes a quick overview. I know time's always a crunch in y'all's world, but I'm happy to entertain any questions, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Board members, any questions?
Just a couple quick comments.
Yes, sir.
I noticed in your priority work items, when we had the tornado, the donations came in, and where to store them, how much you need, what you need was a big issue, so I'm glad you covered that as
Yes, sir.
well. And the debris, because if I remember correctly, we were fortunate to have some finance money in our disposal budget that had built up in there, and then we were able to, but I thought there was some contract, if I remember correctly, already set in place for disasters like that in the area. Is that still the case?
Yes, that
Okay.
is still the case.
Yeah.
And there's contractual mechanisms
Right.
through the state, and then some localities also will go out on their own and establish contracts because maybe they've got resources at the back door that's not part of a state level contract. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but there are some contractual things in place already for that.
And was there any discussion about flooding as a problem in these scenarios as well? Because that's the other issue.
Put someone on the spot real quick.
Put them away.
Because we talked a lot about gathering data around GIS, floodplains, and things like
Exactly.
that. And we just had dialogue 5 minutes ago, how that's becoming relevant in y'all's decision making.
Exactly. So yeah, the crisis track software, because as part of the National Flood Insurance Program, if there's any type of disaster in the floodplain, it doesn't just have to be flooding that damages a house at least 50%, then the house has to meet whatever the current NFIP standards are. And so crisis track makes it super easy to export the data you've been collecting and then bring it in like, oh, these properties in the floodplain
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, good job. These training exercises, I know, are always beneficial, and you may have covered this. How often would you do this type of exercise?
So I think that's some of the conversations that are happening now. It's a challenge to balance the day-to-day operations of local government, turnover rates, and different folks who are in charge with that. So I know as the chief and Wes and I have had conversations, I think there's importance to have some focus time with the individual departments, and maybe that's more on a quarterly basis, and then every year or no more than 2 years have an exercise such as this where you bring more people together. I think the goal at the end is whatever I do every day in my job, I should do that same task, and for the most part, do it in emergency. That way you don't have someone who may be in charge of finance out here doing distribution of goods like water and ice. You know, we want people who know and understand the rules, regulations, and the software that you use every day in local government to apply that now to disasters. So I think some of that focus training on a more regular basis with individual departments. And quarterly is probably a good rhythm at the moment as you kind of continue to grow into things.
And as a secondary question, because I know this is not the real purpose behind it, but do we get recognition from higher levels? Because does every county do this? So, I mean, we ought to get some sort of recognition or credit, right?
There are accreditation programs for EMS,
Right.
fire, for emergency management and things. The accreditation programs, just like sheriff's department, they have out here. Most of these accreditation programs really require a tremendous amount of staff hours to manage the process to get to that point. So I think as a smaller locality, you may have to weigh,
Okay,
is that the
Makes
right
sense.
path for me when those staff hours would be better in service delivery? You know,
Yeah.
because most of the organizations who do have the accreditations, they have a full-time person assigned to that by itself. So I think that's some of the struggles, and as the county grows in the future, you know, those are probably things that could be revisited. But right now, I would be a little bit concerned that you're gonna spend a lot of time and not get the return that you're looking for.
no, I certainly appreciate that. And as I said, that's a secondary thing. It's not the reason you do it, so I appreciate that.
Calvin, Joe, anything else for Tommy? Appreciate it, Tommy.
Nice meeting y'all. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
People, thank you so much.
Next, we have our dredging update. Carlos, you're up.
Hello again. So yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers came out in September to look at the dredge disposal site. They just did a dredging earlier last year, I think. But they're assessing capacity to make sure that that spot's still good for when they do the next dredging. They tend to do every 4 to 5 years. And Hoskins Creek is about every 10 years. Because Army Corps of Engineers has changed, instead of being able to put the dredge spoils in the spot that we're leasing, the county has to own whatever land they're depositing the spoils on. And so the spot by the hospital, parcel 3631A, the county does own, but because the deeds, like super old, like 1989, I don't think anyone was even alive back then. But yeah, so because it's over 30 years old, they need title work to make sure nothing has changed on the deeds. And so we have a title services company on the case, and so they're getting the map that they need. And so they will once that's good to go, sometime probably in the spring, they'll look at draining off some of the soils that have been there and do an assessment to see what the current capacity of that site is, to see basically how much more dredge can go there before it's.
John, I know you got some questions. Go
We can
ahead.
start at the other end first. Couple of things, Carlos. Number one, when they do the dredging, I know they dredge up to Purdue right there. Do they then dredge from there to the bridge, or do they just stop there at Purdue?
That's a good question, which I can find out.
Yeah, check and find out and see. And the other thing is, I know with the Middle Peninsula Planning District, working on dredge and working with companies to take dredge material, is this something that the Corps of Engineers will look into about using some of that material, if it's usable to make concrete, use it for raising or putting living shorelines in or whatever? But there may be an asset to that material that can be used and develop further industry in the area as well, because I know in counties like Gloucester, Matthews, Middlesex, and others, Lancaster, you know, they're working toward that and bringing businesses in a regional basis through the Middle Peninsula Planning District for that. It's Louis Lawrence that's gonna be heading that, so you might wanna touch base with him or keep him in the loop for that spoil material.
Like you said, that's Louis Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll email, Alexa's the person I've been emailing at Army Corps of Engineers, cause yeah, that feels like a better use of it than just dumping it in a spot. That is like an actual, if you could turn your waste into like an input or something else, that's.
Now, if they deem that their site does not have enough capacity next time for the next dredging in there, who's responsible for removing that out of there?
Well, so I don't think it'd be removing from there, it'd be like finding another spot to then put our dredge materials.
But that might be the challenge, is to do that where it's logical, that you don't have to truck it. Right now, they can run it through that pipe and up there.
Right, if it goes
So
through
the,
pipes.
so,
And the spot that, there's a lease for it, for the over beside Purdue Granary, there,
Mhm.
that marsh area.
Mhm.
But we were all looking at it, cause it doesn't look like a great spot to put dredge spoils, cause it's a marsh right on the river, so it
Mhm.
doesn't, it feels like your sediment would just go right back.
exactly
into
is
it.
what it's gonna do.
And then also because it's just an easement rather than us owning it, they wouldn't be able to put it on there even if it were
Right.
a good spot to deposit them, unless we bought that land. And so, yeah, those Middle Peninsula Planning District, other options that you mentioned, would probably be a better approach than just
Okay.
something else.
Keep me in the loop as well. Thank you.
To John's point, Carlos, and you said, you know, as far as going beyond Purdue, has in all this work, is the coordination with the town going on because of the work they're going to do at the bridge with the development? I expect some of that's going to have to be dredged anyway, so is that part of your workflow there?
I don't think so, but we can loop them in. I think we let them know when we were doing the meeting with Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
But I'll make sure to do a concerted effort to make sure. Because their Hoskins Creek project will also need dredging.
Yeah.
Apologies. Oh, that's way better.
Hey, you sound much better.
All right. Board members, anything else for Carlos? Thanks, Carlos. Keep us updated.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our overview of facility projects. Jay?
Good evening. Mr. Henry, welcome. Mr. Hale, welcome, and congratulations, Mr. Chair. Some of the projects that we have going on, the joint maintenance facility, I emailed you today, Rob, just got the drawings for the concrete today. So hopefully I'll be able to pick the pace up on the joint maintenance facility. The joint maintenance facility is the facility we're building to join the schools and the county fleet to have one centralized location to be able to repair those. EMS facility, the addition to the firehouse is up and coming. The circuit court, y'all have got the letters on that with the security upgrades that are looking. Most of these projects are in CIP. There's only a couple. I know our admin HVAC system is in need of repairs or replacement. That's something else we'll get together on and observe anything. And the McClure group, which Chrissy is here tonight to do their presentation on that, so. Is there any questions or? I know it's
Timeline?
short.
Timeline on the joint maintenance facility?
So I presented that last,
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anything changed on that, I guess. is-
nothing's changed on it, but hopefully the pace will pick up a whole lot,
understand
you know,
that.
now since I've got the drawings. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, with the courthouse, I'm sure I'm gonna be asking, we're presenting some, asking for some money from you guys for the security upgrades, because that's not in CIP, but it's something that's gonna be up and coming.
How to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay, appreciate it. All right, so with that, we'll bring the sheriff up here to hear from McClure about where they're at with the school and the county energy program.
All right, while I do my IT, let me do my tap dance. Good evening, members of the board. Congratulations, Chair Akers.
Thank you.
Thank you, April and council. So, as said, my name is Chrissy Sheriff. I represent McClure Company. We're your facility solution or capital improvement partner. We are working both with the schools and the county on community-wide efficiency progress and development of our projects. So today is a progress update meeting on your project development. I'll go over quickly, high-level project objectives, where we are in milestones hit thus far in your project development, opportunities that we have identified for improvement to your facilities, along with to reinforce Jay and his team's efforts. Mock-up high level of your budgetary or financials review, what our next steps are in furthering the project development to where we get to a project to select and approve, and then any questions and answers that you may have for me. Our partnership is based upon 3 pillars. We are here to focus on, first, improving efficiency throughout the entire community, both through the school buildings as well as the county buildings, as a community-wide effort to reduce wasted energy and utility spending across the board, to then strengthen the county operations by addressing aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance, and third, to strategically fund and implement these projects in a way that minimizes the need for new capital outlay and requests by leveraging guaranteed savings numbers. For our newer board members, just as a refresh of what program we're using for most of our initiatives and these projects that we're using together, we're using the Energy Savings Performance Contracting Program, which allows you to use your existing dollars spent towards your utility companies and reinvest wasted dollars going towards those utility companies into actually investing and improving your buildings. That way it reduces the amount of capital that we're asking that you be asked for, and we can finance that over term, giving you more strength in your operations, reducing the risk severely in terms of what you spend and the operations that come with those investments that you make. In this project, and of course it is design build, it gives you more efficiency amongst your costs. It allows you to focus on guaranteed savings and operational cost cuts, as well as effectiveness time over time, year over year, of those savings that we guarantee to you with the upgrades that you select. Our partnership began really a year ago when we started with the schools doing a preliminary energy audit. In the spring, we aligned with the county administration, and it was deemed that this should become a community-wide effort, not just for the schools. The county should take the helm and really flagship pioneer the county as a whole towards efficiency in the operations and finding out how we can make improvements amongst all buildings, find savings, and leverage those savings towards investing in our buildings. Since then, I can tell you that the schools have agreed on, and they are entering into 2 solar panels, but two solar projects, one for their high school roof, one for their intermediate school roof, as well as a energy savings heavy intense project for their phase 1, where they're upgrading their lighting, building envelope, and addressing a water cooler tower at their elementary school, which was critical. So where you stand is halfway into your project development, where in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I expect to be coming back to a board presentation where we have fine-tuned and selected what will go into your first phase of your project for efficiency across the county. A lot of these other check boxes are really just getting to where we talk with the administration, hone in on what the details will be of that first project selected, present to you, get approval, move forward into construction, go into engineering, commissioning, and then year over year is where the annual measurement and verification to verify and guarantee or back up that guarantee that we talk about for the annual energy savings. So long time to come with this partnership, but we are coming in or rounding third towards our first phase together. We are here. Development upgrade. There were 14 buildings selected for us to enter into and look through for defining energy efficiency upgrades and improvements, not just energy savings, but other facility upgrades. 14 are listed here, and they represent the county's most critical infrastructure assets and primary drivers of energy and operation costs. What I'm going to go through are a couple of slides that detail the energy conservation measures that we are looking at across the board through all your buildings. Just like the schools, LED lighting upgrades across the board, building envelope across the board as well. And that's really sealing air gaps, finding any opportunities for door leaks, for light to come in, that's air coming in. So to really make sure that we quarantine, keep the good air in, bad air out. Plumbing upgrades, switching to low flow fixtures wherever possible to reduce water consumption. And then for the circuit court, we'll also be putting on a window solution on the inside that will increase, it's a lower cost alternative to full on window replacement, but it does reduce condensation, give you a nice cost effective entrance, and increases the comfort for those inside the circuit court building. Heavily intense into this project effort, we are focusing on your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning solutions across the county's buildings as well. For some of the smaller buildings, we'll be replacing some of the older split systems with its like-for-like newer upgrade. And then for larger buildings such as the circuit court, sheriff's office, district court, we'll be focusing on more comprehensive solution for the larger buildings where we're going to be looking to improve your zone comfort, zone control, and giving you longer term efficiency. So far more comprehensive for those critical buildings. Non-energy facility improvements that we're also looking at for you include emergency power for the circuit court, fire alarm replacement at the circuit court as well. We'll be looking at replacing and repairing any of the electrical panels throughout all of the buildings, mostly focused on the county administration building, circuit court, Commonwealth Attorney, Treasurer, and Commissioner. And then we'll also be looking deeper into, at the Treasurer and Commissioner office, a water infiltration remediation solution. We're working with Jay and a couple of the other buildings to make sure that we can solve that problem comprehensively together. We've also looked at some solar opportunities thus far for the county. We've looked at several rooftop opportunities as well as some ground mount opportunities. What I can say is for right now, due to the ages, size of the roofs, as well as the materials of some of the roofs, we're not at a point where we have the clear winner for a great solar solution thus yet. That said, we're a long-term solution facility partner to you, so as the shared maintenance or shared facility building is created, perhaps in Poorhouse Track has a facility, in addition, additional additions and renovations are taking place throughout the county, we will absolutely advocate and look for opportunities for solar and finding significant electric savings for you as well. For the schools, we use the power purchase agreement. That was a zero cost outlay, so they just benefit every year from significant electrical annual savings. We would be looking and striving for that same effort for you. So know that we're always an advocate, always scouting for you. Right now we don't have a clear winner, but as soon as newer buildings are erected, we will be here for you. What we also do as part of the energy savings performance program, we start with data. So this is just a snapshot to show you what we've put together in terms of your 14 buildings, the utility usage, the utility spending, and how we use that to understand what opportunities exist for you. As you can see on the far right-hand column, we strive to find buildings running at about $1, $1.25 is a sweet spot for where we would like to see buildings in terms of their cost per square foot. There are some significant opportunities specifically at the Treasurer and Commissioner office, the Commonwealth Attorney, so where we strive is to find opportunities to really increase efficiencies and make everybody have a more comfortable work-life balance as well as having more comfort, more efficiency across the board. So know that this gives us a clear determination of where we can strive to create some reduced spending for you. Using that cost exercise in that spreadsheet, that's how we come together to find what your potential in terms of savings would be. This is very high level because we're at the midway point of your project development. So if we were to take all of the items I just listed in terms of the energy conservation measure and we were to go into project development contract mode right now, you would be looking at a roughly $3.7 million project with just over $1 million in potential savings from that, which results in a net balance of the project being a roughly 2.6, hovering about $2.7 million of a project. So we use those utility spends in order to create where that savings will come from, where that guarantee comes from. So that's where all the numbers really originate from for us in terms of understanding how we can help you and where the guarantee and the contractual part of our obligation starts for you. Of the $2.6 million, what you can do from there, options you have are to fund them and finance them in any way, shape that you can. Of course, there's using your internal cash or your existing operating CIP or budget reserved for any of the scope items there. We will always be scouting for utility rebates with Dominion that are not just in our contract. You will get additional utility rebates. And then we'll always be looking for grant opportunities for you as well so that you can get a rebate and get cash back on any project efforts you incur. From a financing perspective, we're always looking for that, as I mentioned, solar PPA opportunity. You always have a tax-exempt municipal lease to leverage and a bond when necessary. I mentioned to you that we're halfway through your project development, so in the next 4 to 6 weeks, my hope is to return to you in the March-April timeframe in board meetings, where we can tell you what we've, as a result of the collaboration with the administration facility teams, what that perfect first phase project will look like in terms of scope, numbers, cost, savings as well. So we will start fine-tuning our scope list for you, getting to final firm fixed pricing costs and savings to present to administration in the next 6 weeks. I expect to be back here in April. If all goes well, we can start our pre-construction and final design during the summer, mobilization in the fall, and then the annually is where the measurement and verification of annual savings continues. Our hope is that you continue to work with us for years to come, leveraging our firm fixed pricing, our design, build, construction, procurement for efficiency in operations, time, and costs, as well as knowing that you are working hand in hand, eye in eye, arm in arm with my in-house engineers, construction, commissioning team. You are working with the experts that are doing the work. I have time for question and answer.
Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
Of course. I didn't want to disappoint you. Chrissy, you mentioned the solar and all that. Did that include battery storage at all? Is that being looked at as an option?
We haven't thus yet, we are not excluding it, but we haven't ventured down that road if that's something that would be of interest.
Okay. Worth exploring.
Worth exploring is exactly right.
Okay. All right. Add that to the list.
You got it.
That's all. Thanks.
My pleasure.
I think I'm good. You did a great job presenting it. It's a lot of moving pieces here, so we'll be interested to see what happens next.
Absolutely. My goal is to keep you informed and on top of everything so that as we get to the final selection of a project, everybody is very comfortable with what we've selected.
And the
Thank
school
you.
will be on a different time schedule, or they're going to be following the same time schedule, or?
Well, luckily enough, we are at the firm fixed pricing part for getting your lighting, and we're going to have our team that's doing the lighting for the schools working on doing the actual installation of their lighting while doing the final run-through for your lighting. So we're able to really, scales of economy. We're actually really able to be efficient with both your project development as well as their construction. So we're ready to mobilize as we speak for many of the scoping items so that the schools will start realizing their lighting and their building envelope savings pretty quickly here. So yeah, moving right along.
Nice.
Yeah, for Joe and Calvin, there's more of the projects happening at the school side. There's more opportunities, let's just say, at the school side for more efficiencies, more cost savings. And with the solar part that we're talking about, it's all rooftop solar, and it's nothing going back to the power grid. It's all to be self-contained within the schools. So that's where it's really offsetting the savings, is that the power will go directly back into the schools to reduce their power cost. So the county's just kind of, we're a small piece of a much bigger project for the county. The school's got the biggest piece of it, but stuff that we've needed to do, so. Have itself, we'll look forward to us progressing forward.
And that's not a surprise. In many cases, we find that county buildings are much smaller in a footprint, and obviously the pitched roofs and the appeal obviously leads to not really being completely solar happy, but we see time over time, schools represent the biggest footprint and the biggest cost center in most localities, to where they would benefit the most from the solar. So
Perfect.
it's a norm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And do we have Woody here?
Woody's here. He is here.
Let's make him wait a little bit.
He's there.
We'll make him wait a little bit.
Make him wait.
All right, with that, we'll do the Rotary Poorhouse Park Track. So, Woody? Okay. Don't act so excited, Woody. It's early.
Give you an update on this project, kind of the timeline that I'm working with. EDA sees this, moving this forward, so let me give you those details. Then Kay and I are here to answer your questions you may have. So I just want you to know that since your December meeting, we're working toward bringing TRC, the consultant, here at your next month's February 10th work session. I want to go into some of the details of what you'll hear from them, some of the things they're looking for. But to start that out, I want you to know that since your December meeting, I've met pretty regularly with Kay. We thought, I want to make sure that I understand and the EDA understands her goals, her concerns for Parks and Rec, as this is a project. So we've been talking. In recent weeks, I've received very specific written comments. I got comments from the county administrator. Thank you. Those really help. Very specific guidance. We've also received written comments from Parks and Recreation, the Sheriff's Office, and EMS. So what I'm doing with all those, I'm putting them all in one document, and I'm sharing those with TRC, the consultants. And we're working on updating the draft plan that you got a copy of last month with those track changes enabled, right? So that next month, you'll be able to see where that was and how these new comments have been incorporated. To get that done, what I plan to do, my timetable, is I'll continue to look at these comments, and I meet weekly with TRC, and we're updating that draft plan. But we'll stop that process January 23rd. We can always have more comments after that. But for your February 10th meeting, I want to make sure we all have plenty of time to give you a good solid report. So I'll take these comments, we'll update that. By January 31st, TRC will send me the latest draft with track changes. You can see what's been done with the comments that we provided. They'll also bring us, for the February 10th meeting, they'll also bring some new maps, because we've made some changes to what kind of uses might be out of that. So we're updating the map, and those are really good for, Kay keeps one in her office, so it's really good for showing people. So, in advance of your February 10th meeting, when I normally send in our board reports, I will have you getting this updated. It gives you and the EDA a couple of weeks to look it over. Now, on that February 10th meeting, I won't be here. I'll be at the Chesapeake Gateway Annual Conference. Hopefully moving some of those projects. But EDA Chair Lisa Andrews will be here. Okay, and we'll introduce Greg Smith from TRC. He's our consultant. So that you can hear from him the latest changes and what their plans are. Some of the to work with the Board of Supervisors and Parks and Recreation to just keep this project moving through the spring. I want to work with the county staff to talk about, we need to have public meetings and get public input. We also need to think about maybe bringing in some funders so that you meet with them. Some of these programs that are conservation funders, I think they're relevant for this project. So I would work with county staff and bring these people in when you're ready. So for me, that's my report, that's my update. Any questions for us?
Yeah, look at me. No this time. I'm good.
Your input too. So I haven't seen any of you all, anything from you all. I know, I'll give you to ask, but
I'm delayed, but I've made them written, but I'll get them to you.
Supervisor Hill.
I do have one question. I had a constituent call me today, was really interested in, when you were gonna hold any meetings for public input, about what was gonna be planned in the park.
that will, it was my understanding that the board will set these meetings, the dates and things after we do the next, the reveal of the project. Then is that correct?
So-
My
so-
understanding is the board will set, I beg for 3 meetings. I really think that we need to have one on the weekend, and, because that's when people mostly don't work and they might be able to come. And I really don't care when the other two, but I think we need at least 3. You can, or we can set the meetings, I don't care, but it's my understanding that the board has that authority to set the meetings, and that we would be there and conduct the meetings, show them what, and then write down all of their questions and concerns.
I think as an authority, you guys would set the meetings up. We would only set anything up as far as a public hearing would go, as it relates to any specific funding or anything for it. But I think as the authority, you guys should set up the meetings whatever times you feel are
I
appropriate.
think you're gonna get our board recommendation for that. That's
Right.
really what it was. It wasn't we were setting them up, we're recommending that these be held.
We understand when you want, EDA can facilitate with Parks and Rec, based on input from Board of Supervisors and county staff. We'll facilitate as you do that. I just want to make sure that you guys kind of setting this plan is telling me what you want.
Yeah, and I'll have my comments and things to you before the 23rd, so that's no problem.
Yeah, I mean, the comments, we'll get you those in writing, but I think we've been integral during this whole process. I've been adamant about a sports complex out there, and from the very get-go. So I know that's part of your plan. So we've had some informal input already, I believe, as a board, but we'll continue to do that. We do appreciate your work on that, so.
Yes, sir. I think this February 10th meeting is a real good way to bring your guidance, let you speak to the consultant one-on-one with them, and we move forward from there.
And a lot of it's gonna be, the funding and the strategy we take for the funding as well. Maybe there's certain pieces we pick off sooner rather than later. Maybe there's certain things we need to get bonds for, maybe there's certain
Right.
grants for others, so it's still kind of, we need to see the plan, and then we can kind of pick and choose. which
This is a
direction we go.
long-term project, folks. We won't
Yeah.
be around
That's right.
to see this thing to completion. Just saying. There's a
on
short
this
term
earth.
and there's a
On
long
this earth.
runway
That's
here.
No, but I encourage you to keep pressing along. Anybody else have anything? Joe, do you have anything? So I look forward to, getting the next month's report.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. All right, with that, does somebody want to read us into closed session?
I move that the Essex County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A1 for discussion, assignment, and appointment of appointees to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Middle Peninsula Chesapeake Bay Public Access Authority, Middle Peninsula Juvenile Detention Commission, Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission, Rappahannock River Basin Committee, Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority, and the Community Policy and Management Team, and pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 for discussion and/or consideration of the acquisition of real property for the public purpose and the disposition of publicity, held in real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board related to the purchase agreements, leases, and use agreements, a potential property acquisition, and public facilities, and pursuant to Section 2.23711A8 for the consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provisions of legal advice by such counsel related to demands, agreements, and real estate transactions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in closed session. We'll be back and closing out this meeting and opening up a regular meeting at 7. Get a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. April, you do a roll call, please.
Chairman Akers.
Present.
Vice Chairman Gill.
Present.
Supervisor Hale.
Present.
Supervisor Henry.
Present.
Supervisor Magruder.
Present.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Vice Chairman Gill, you read the compliance certification, please?
Yes, sir. Whereas the Essex County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmation recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed session was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, there be it resolved that the board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirement of Virginia law were discussed in closed session to which the certification resolution applies. And 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the board.
Any member who believes that there was a departure from the requirements of clauses 1 and 2 shall state the substance of the departure that in his judgment has taken place. Hearing none. April, you certify the board, please.
Chairman Akers.
I certify.
Vice Chairman Gill.
I certify.
Supervisor Hale.
I certify.
Supervisor Henry.
I certify.
and Supervisor Magruder.
I certify.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn our work session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. We'll come back and give ourselves a 5-minute break and be back at 7:05.